You know that feeling when you suddenly realize you weren't even a thought in the people you love most. It's like standing in a crowded room but no one sees you. That's what it felt like the morning I found out, through a Facebook post, that my granddaughter, my Lily, had gotten married. I wasn't tagged. I wasn't mentioned. I wasn't even invited. It was a Tuesday morning. I remember because Tuesdays are quiet in my house. The kind of quiet where you can hear the clock ticking on the wall. Tick, tick, tick. And you start to notice every little sound, like the refrigerator humming, or the wind brushing against the curtains. I had just finished washing the dishes when my phone buzzed. A notification. Facebook. I almost didn't open it. I've never been the scroll all day type, but something in me just did, almost absent-mindedly. And there it was. A photo that froze my world. Lily. My Lily in a long white wedding gown. Her hair in soft curls. The same kind of curls I used to brush when she was a little girl and we'd play pretend salon. She was standing under an arch covered with roses. Her eyes sparkled. She looked breathtaking. The caption said, "The best day of my life, surrounded by the people I love most." I stopped breathing for a second. My thumb hovered over the screen. My eyes darted from one face to another in that picture. Her father, my son Michael, his wife Susan, cousins, uncles, even my late husband's sister. Everyone was there. Everyone but me. At first, my heart tried to protect me, whispering excuses like, maybe it's just an engagement photo, or maybe it's a rehearsal dinner. But then I saw another picture, Lily and her husband cutting a cake, Mr. and Mrs., written behind them in golden letters, a wedding, and I wasn't there. I stared at the screen until my eyes stung. My coffee had gone cold. There's a kind of silence that doesn't come from outside. It comes from inside you. That's the silence I felt, like something broke quietly, and no one noticed. You see, I wasn't expecting a red carpet treatment. I wasn't expecting to sit in the front row, but an invitation? A single phone call? A text message saying, "Grandma, I'm getting married?" I thought I at least deserved that. I set my phone down slowly on the table. My hands were shaking. The light from the window fell across my kitchen counter. Same counter where Lily and I used to bake cookies together every Christmas. She'd stand on a little stool, her hair tied in pigtails, covered in flour, laughing as she said, "Grandma, don't you think Santa gets tired of chocolate chip?" Those memories came flooding back all at once. And now, that same little girl had walked down the aisle, without me there to see it. I sat there for a long time. I don't even know how long. My phone buzzed again. More likes, more comments, under the photo. "Beautiful bride. Congratulations. Such a lovely family. Lovely family." I felt something inside me crumble. I picked up the phone again and scrolled through every single photo. Each one was like a small cut. People smiling, arms around each other, laughter frozen in time. My son standing proudly beside his daughter, Susan dabbing tears of joy from her eyes, Lily hugging guests, and me, nowhere. I whispered under my breath, when did I stop being part of the family? The truth is, things had been distant for a while. After my husband died, I thought Michael would come around more often, but he got busy. New job, new responsibilities, new people in his life. Susan always made polite small talk when they did visit, but I could feel it, that invisible wall between us. Still, Lily always bridged that gap. She'd call me, tell me about her studies, about a boy she liked once. Maybe that same boy who's now her husband. She promised I'd meet him someday. She even said once, "Grandma, when I get married, you're gonna sit in the front row, okay?" Those words echoed in my head as I stared at her wedding photos. Front row, huh? Seems like I didn't even make the guest list. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of it all. Did I do something? Did I offend Susan somehow? Was I too old-fashioned? Too honest? Or maybe I was just too much of a reminder of the past. Around midnight, I got up and made tea. I sat by the window watching the streetlights glow. My reflection in the glass looked tired. Older somehow. But I noticed my eyes still had that same spark. The one that said, "You've survived worse." And maybe I had. Losing my husband. Raising Michael on my own. Working 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. I'd faced loneliness before. But this one felt different. This one came from the people I loved most. The next morning, I decided to do something I hadn't done in a while. I went to the park. The one Lily and I used to visit when she was little. The trees were taller now. The benches older. But the air smelled the same. Fresh cut grass and distant laughter. I sat down and watched the kids play. One little girl was running with a balloon, calling out, "Grandma, look!" And I don't know what came over me. But my eyes filled with tears. Sometimes you don't realize how deeply you miss being needed until the world stops needing you. That night, I sat at my desk and took out a piece of stationery. I decided to write Lily a letter. No anger, no blame, just love. "Dear Lily," I wrote. "I saw your pictures today. You looked beautiful, truly. I wish I could have been there to see you walk down the aisle, but even from afar, I felt proud. I hope your husband treats you with kindness, and I hope your days are filled with laughter. Remember, my door is always open, sweetheart. Love doesn't fade just because time passes or distance grows. You'll always be my little girl. Love, Grandma." I folded it gently, slipped it into an envelope, and sealed it with trembling hands. Then I walked down to the mailbox, under a sky full of stars, and dropped it in. I didn't expect her to reply. I didn't even know if she'd read it. But I needed to send it, because love doesn't vanish just because it wasn't invited. When I got back inside, I sat in my old armchair. The house was quiet again. On the wall hung a photo of me, Michael, and Lily from years ago. She was only 7, missing a front tooth, smiling wide. I touched the frame and whispered, "I'm still here, baby girl." And as the clock ticked past midnight, I realized something. Maybe this pain was here to teach me. Not about loss, but about letting go without losing love. Still, a part of me couldn't help wondering. What if there was more to it? What if something had happened that I didn't know? And that thought, that faint glimmer of hope, kept me awake until dawn. The next morning, the letter was gone from my mailbox, and I felt a strange kind of calm. It's funny how doing something as small as mailing a letter can make you feel like you've done something enormous. Like you've put a piece of your heart into motion, even if you don't know where it'll land. I made myself breakfast. Eggs and toast. The same thing I've had for years. But it didn't taste the same that day. My kitchen felt emptier somehow. I kept glancing at the window, half expecting to see Lily's car pulling up, like she used to when she'd surprise me with coffee and a hug. But the driveway stayed empty. By noon, I decided to call Michael. I stared at his name on my phone for a long time. My thumb hovered over the call button. We hadn't spoken much lately. Just occasional check-ins about bills or updates about his work. Conversations that used to be warm had turned into brief exchanges. Still, I pressed call. It rang 3 times before he picked up. "Mom," he said, his voice neutral, almost cautious. "Hi, Michael," I said softly. "I saw something online today. About Lily." He was silent for a moment. I could hear the faint sound of a TV in the background. Maybe Susan moving around. Then he said, "Yeah, Mom, she got married." My heart sank. She got married. I repeated like I needed to hear it again to make it real. He cleared his throat. It was a small ceremony. "Just a few people." I swallowed hard. "A few people?" "Michael, the pictures. It looked like half the town was there." Another pause. "Longer this time." "Mom," he said, and I could tell from the way he said it that I wasn't going to like what came next. "It wasn't personal." "Not personal?" My voice cracked a little. "Michael, how can it not be personal? I wasn't invited to my granddaughter's wedding. She wanted to keep it simple," he said quickly. "You know how things have been lately. It didn't seem like the right time. The right time for what? I asked. For your mother to see her only granddaughter get married? I heard him exhale heavily. The sound of someone who didn't want to have this conversation. Mom, please don't make this harder than it is. Harder? I whispered. Michael, I watched that girl take her first steps. I sang her lullabies when you were too tired from work. I was there for every birthday, every scraped knee, every heartbreak. And you think I wouldn't notice that I wasn't even told she was getting married? He didn't answer. I could feel the silence on the other end. Thick, uncomfortable, like a wall between us. Finally, he said, Mom, it's not that simple. There's history. You and Susan haven't always seen eye to eye. And Lily, she didn't want any tension on her big day. I closed my eyes, feeling tears press at the corners. So she left me out to keep the peace? I don't know how else to explain it, he said quietly. For a few seconds, I couldn't speak. My throat felt tight. Michael, I finally whispered, you could have at least told me. I didn't have to be there, but finding out through a stranger's photo, that's not something a mother forgets. I'm sorry, Mom, he said. His voice was soft, but it felt hollow, like the words were practiced. It all happened fast. Fast? I repeated. Michael, you've been planning this for months. I can see it in the pictures. The decorations, the guests, the cake. That's not a fast wedding, he sighed. Mom, please, let's not do this right now. And just like that, the call ended. I sat there, staring at my reflection in the dark phone screen. My face looked tired, older than it did the day before. You raise them, you give them everything you have. And one day, they decide you don't fit the picture anymore. For the rest of that day, I didn't do much. Just wandered around the house, touching old photographs, old memories. Every frame on the wall told a story I still believed in. Birthdays, graduations, Christmas mornings. I stopped in front of one picture. Lily at age 10, holding a little red bike. Her smile was so big it almost didn't fit her face. I remembered that day vividly. She had fallen twice trying to ride it, but she kept getting up. That was the day she learned to balance. And now, it seemed, she'd learned to move on without me. That night, I sat on the porch. The air was cool, carrying the faint smell of rain. I wrapped a shawl around my shoulders and looked up at the stars. My husband used to say stars were reminders that the ones we love never truly leave us. I used to believe that. Now, I wondered if the living could leave you just as completely as the dead. A few days passed before I heard anything. Then one morning, an envelope showed up in my mailbox. No return address. My heart skipped. I tore it open carefully, afraid to ruin whatever was inside. It was a card. A wedding thank you card. Thank you for sharing in our special day. With love, Lily and Mark. That's all it said. No note, no explanation. No wish you were there. Just a card, like the kind you send to a distant acquaintance, someone you barely know. I held it for a long time. My eyes blurred. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It felt cruel, like being reminded that I wasn't part of the story, but not allowed to forget it either. That afternoon, I went for a walk through town. People smiled and waved. The usual faces at the grocery store, the post office, the diner. They didn't know, of course. No one did. But I could feel it. That quiet embarrassment that comes when you're hurt by your own family. You start to shrink a little. Make yourself smaller so no one asks questions. At the diner, I sat at my usual booth near the window. The waitress, Donna, poured me coffee and said, "Haven't seen you in a few days, Margaret. Everything all right?" I forced a small smile. "Just keeping busy," I said. She nodded. "Well, you look tired. You need to take it easy, hun." I smiled again, grateful she didn't pry. When she walked away, I took a sip of my coffee and stared out the window. Across the street, I saw a young couple walking hand in hand, laughing about something. For a moment, I thought of Lily again. I wondered what her laugh sounded like these days. I realized something then. I could spend the rest of my days waiting for them to call, or I could find peace on my own terms. But peace doesn't come easy when your heart's been left out in the cold. That night, I found myself in the attic, rummaging through old boxes, photos, letters, a few keepsakes, and then I found something. An old scrapbook Lily and I made when she was little. We'd filled it with pictures of our adventures, baking, gardening, feeding ducks at the park. There was even a page where she'd written, in her uneven little handwriting, "Grandma is my best friend forever." I traced the words with my finger. I could almost hear her voice, sweet and high-pitched. Something in me shifted then. A part of me that had been angry just softened because I realized the girl who wrote that hadn't meant to hurt me. Life just had a way of pulling people apart, quietly, slowly, until they didn't even notice how far they'd drifted. Maybe Lily wasn't cruel. Maybe she was just young. And maybe Michael wasn't heartless. Maybe he was stuck between his wife, his mother, and 1,000 unspoken things. The next morning, I decided to do something unusual for me. I baked an apple pie, Lily's favorite, and I drove it to Michael's house. When I pulled up, I sat there for a minute, heart pounding. I could see the wreath on the door, the garden Susan kept so neat. I almost turned around. But then I thought, no, not this time. I got out carrying the pie carefully and walked to the door. I rang the bell. Susan answered. Her face froze for just a second before she smiled politely. "Oh, Margaret, what a surprise." "Hi, Susan," I said, forcing a calm smile. "I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by. Brought some pie." She hesitated before stepping aside. "Well, come in then." The house smelled like candles and cinnamon. Photos lined the hallway. Family photos. I noticed Lily and her husband's wedding picture framed on the mantel. My chest tightened, but I said nothing. Susan motioned toward the kitchen. "Michael's at work, but you can sit if you'd like." I nodded and set the pie down on the counter. "Thank you." There was an awkward silence between us. Finally, I said softly, "Susan, I didn't come here to argue. I just wanted to see if everything's all right. And to say, if I did something to make anyone uncomfortable, I'm sorry. That was never my intention." She looked at me for a long moment. Her expression softened, just slightly. "It wasn't really about you, Margaret," she said quietly. "Lily." She thought it might be too emotional. "You know how you get about big family events?" I nodded slowly. "Too emotional," I repeated. "Well, she's not wrong about that." Susan's lips curved into a small, polite smile. "She didn't mean to hurt you." "I know," I said, "but it did." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I picked up my purse. "I should go," I said. "Just tell her." "Tell her I'm proud of her. That's all." Susan hesitated. "I will." As I walked back to my car, the wind brushed against my face. The air smelled faintly of apples and leaves. I sat in the driver's seat for a long time, just breathing. No anger, no bitterness, just quiet acceptance. Maybe this was how it was meant to be. Families drift, hearts bruise, but love, real love, it doesn't need an invitation to exist, and yet, as I drove away, I couldn't help but hope that one day, Lily might remember that little girl who wrote, "Grandma is my best friend forever." Maybe one day she'd come back. Not out of guilt, but out of love. The days after my visit felt strange, quiet, but not the same kind of quiet I'd known before. It wasn't the heavy silence of hurt anymore. It was something different, like the stillness that comes right after a storm. Things hadn't fixed themselves overnight, but I felt a small kind of peace knowing I'd tried. I kept thinking about what I said to Susan and how she looked at me when I said it wasn't about anger. There'd been something in her eyes. Not guilt exactly, but maybe understanding. Maybe she realized that what they'd done had left a mark that wouldn't fade easily. That week, I tried to focus on small things. The garden needed tending. The bird feeder needed refilling. I baked more often than usual, even if it was just for myself. Apple pie, banana bread, sometimes cornbread like my mother used to make. But no matter how I tried to fill my days, I couldn't stop my mind from drifting back to Lily. Every morning, I'd check the mail, just to see if there was anything. A note, a postcard, something. Most days there wasn't. Just bills and grocery flyers. But hope has a funny way of showing up uninvited. I still looked, every single day. Then one morning I got a message. Not a letter, not a card, but a text. From an unknown number. It said, "Hi, Grandma. It's me, Lily." I must have stared at it for a full minute, not even breathing. My hands started trembling as I typed back, "Hi, sweetheart. I wasn't sure if you still had my number." Her reply came a minute later. I found it on Dad's phone. "I hope it's okay that I texted." "Of course it's okay," I wrote. "You can always text me." Then there was a pause. I could almost feel her hesitating through the screen. Finally, another message popped up. I just wanted to say, "I'm sorry." I read those words again and again. "I'm sorry." Simple words, but they carried so much weight. I wrote back, "For what, honey?" She replied, "For the wedding. For not inviting you. It wasn't my idea to hide it from you. But I didn't fight hard enough to change it either. I thought I was doing what was best for everyone. But I see now I just hurt you. I'm so sorry, Grandma." The tears came before I could stop them. They weren't loud tears, just quiet ones. The kind that fall slowly when your heart's been holding on too long. I typed back, "Thank you for saying that, sweetheart. I missed you. Every single day." Another pause. And then, "I missed you too. I really did. I thought about you the whole day, Grandma. I even wore your locket, the one you gave me on my 18th birthday. I wanted you there. I hope you know that." I set the phone down and covered my mouth. I could almost picture her in her wedding dress, wearing that old gold locket that used to belong to my mother. It was like a piece of me had been there after all. We texted for hours that day. She told me about her husband, Mark, how kind he was, how he made her laugh. She sent me a few photos from the wedding. She looked beautiful, radiant even. But there was something about her eyes. They looked just a little sad. She said she'd been meaning to reach out but didn't know how. That she'd been scared I wouldn't forgive her. I told her what every grandmother would say. There's nothing you could do that I couldn't forgive. Love doesn't work like that. That seemed to open a door between us. Over the next few weeks, she texted more often. Little things like pictures of her new apartment or updates about work. Sometimes she'd just ask how I was feeling, and I'd smile because I hadn't heard those words from her in so long. One evening, I got another message from her. "Grandma, could I come visit sometime?" I didn't even think before I wrote back. "You don't even have to ask. My door's always open." And just like that, she came back into my life. That Sunday, I spent the whole morning cleaning, not because the house was messy. It wasn't. But because I wanted everything to feel special. I dusted the old photo frames, polished the silverware, even put fresh flowers on the table. When I heard her car pull up, my heart started racing. I walked to the window and there she was, Lily, stepping out of her car, holding a bouquet of daisies. She looked older, but still the same girl I'd loved all my life. Her hair was a little shorter, her smile a little shy. When she saw me at the door, she stopped for a second. Then she ran, just like she used to when she was a kid, and wrapped her arms around me. "Grandma," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I missed you so much." "Oh, honey," I said, holding her tight. You have no idea how long I've waited to hear that. We stood there for a long time, neither of us letting go. It was like all those empty years folded in on themselves and disappeared. Inside, she looked around the house and smiled. "It hasn't changed a bit," she said. "It still smells like cinnamon and soap," I laughed. "That's because I clean too much and bake even more." She grinned, that same bright smile I remembered. "I miss this." We sat in the kitchen just like old times, eating pie and drinking tea. She told me about her new job, her new life, and how marriage wasn't exactly what she expected. That it was beautiful, but also hard. At one point, she looked down and said, "Grandma, I wanted you there. I really did. I felt awful that you weren't." I reached across the table and took her hand. "Sweetheart," I said softly. "Life has a way of making people believe they have to choose sides, but love doesn't ask you to choose. It asks you to forgive." She started crying then. I got up and hugged her, brushing her hair back like I used to when she was little. We sat there in silence, the kind that feels warm and full, not empty. Later, when she was about to leave, she said, "Can I come again next week?" I smiled. "If you don't, I'll come find you myself." We both laughed, and I watched as she drove away, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. That night, I stood on the porch again looking up at the stars. This time they didn't feel so distant. I thought about my husband and what he used to say. The people who truly love you always find their way back. Maybe he was right. The next morning, I woke up early, made coffee, and smiled when I saw my phone light up with a message. It was Lily again. "Good morning, Grandma. I was just thinking about you." I wrote back, "I was just thinking about you too, sweetheart." And that's when I realized something important. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it makes the future possible. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel forgotten. I felt seen, loved, remembered. Maybe I wasn't at her wedding, but she was back in my life. And maybe that was a better gift than any invitation could have been. I remember the day of the wedding as if it were yesterday. Though I wasn't there, I spent most of it sitting by the window, the same window where I used to watch Lily play in the yard when she was little. It was a sunny afternoon, the kind of perfect weather that you dream of for a wedding. I could almost imagine it. The white chairs lined up in rows, the flowers, the sound of laughter and music floating through the air. Around noon, I made myself a cup of tea, though I could barely bring myself to drink it. The house felt too quiet. No phone call, no message, nothing from anyone. I tried to distract myself. I turned on the television, but every channel seemed to be about love, family, and celebrations. So I turned it off and just sat there, letting the silence fill the room. It's strange how silence can feel heavier than noise. It's not just the absence of sound. It's the presence of everything you wish you could hear. I wished I could hear Lily's laugh, the same giggle she used to have when I'd tickle her. I wished I could hear the clinking of glasses, the sound of people celebrating, the simple joy of family coming together. But instead, all I could hear was the clock ticking, each second reminding me that somewhere, life was going on without me. Later that evening, I logged onto Facebook. I don't even know why I did it. Maybe I was hoping there wouldn't be anything there. Maybe part of me thought I'd misunderstood, that I had the wrong date, that somehow this was all a mistake. But it wasn't. There it was, a picture of Lily, my Lily, in her wedding dress. She looked beautiful, radiant even. Her smile lit up the photo. And there beside her was her new husband, and around them, everyone. My son, his wife, her side of the family, friends, even distant cousins. But not me. They all looked so happy. My son had his arm around Lily. I stared at that picture for a long time. I should have been standing beside him, holding her bouquet, straightening her veil. I should have been there when she said her vows. I should have been the one who hugged her after and whispered how proud I was. Instead, I was sitting in my living room, crying quietly into a cup of cold tea. I didn't post anything. I didn't comment. I didn't like the photo. I just scrolled and scrolled until my eyes hurt. I told myself I shouldn't take it personally. Maybe there was a reason. Maybe it wasn't up to her. Maybe someone told her I couldn't make it. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. Deep down, I knew I'd been forgotten on purpose. The next morning, I woke up to find messages from a few old friends. People who had seen the wedding photos. "I didn't know Lily was getting married," one said. Another wrote, "She looked so beautiful. You must be so proud." I didn't have the heart to tell them the truth. I just said, "Yes, she did." That's when I decided to write her a letter. I didn't want to call. I didn't trust my voice not to shake. So I took out my old stationery, the one with little blue flowers printed along the border, and I began to write. I told her how proud I was, how I wished her all the happiness in the world. I didn't mention the hurt or the tears. I just told her I hoped she was loved, truly loved, and that her husband treated her with kindness and respect. And then, near the end, I wrote, "I missed you today, sweetheart, but I'll always be here if you ever need me." I didn't expect her to reply. I just needed her to know. A few weeks went by and life settled back into its quiet rhythm. I went to my gardening club, cooked small meals, and watched the birds outside my window. But one afternoon, when I came back from the store, I found a letter in my mailbox. The handwriting was familiar, a little more grown up, but still hers. My hands trembled as I opened it. "Grandma," it began. "I don't even know where to start. I'm so sorry." I sat down right there at my kitchen table and began to read. She wrote that she wanted me there, that she begged my son and his wife to invite me, but they said it would be too complicated. They told her that I wouldn't want to come, that it would make things awkward. She said she didn't know what to believe anymore, and in the rush of everything, she let it go. But she said not a day had gone by that she didn't regret it. She ended the letter with, "Please forgive me. I want to see you." I must have read that line 100 times. I cried for a long time that day. Not out of anger, but out of relief. Relief that I hadn't imagined it all. That she still loved me. That maybe there was still a way back. A week later, she came to visit. When I opened the door and saw her standing there, I swear my heart almost stopped. She looked just like her mother did at that age, but her eyes, those were mine. She didn't say a word at first. She just ran into my arms and held me so tight that neither of us could speak. When she finally pulled back, there were tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Grandma," she whispered. I smiled, brushing her hair back like I used to when she was little. "You're here now," I said softly. "That's all that matters." We spent the whole afternoon talking. She told me about her husband, about the wedding, about how much she missed me. I told her stories she hadn't heard before, about her father when he was young, about how proud he'd been when she was born. It didn't fix everything, not right away. There were still wounds, things left unsaid, hurt that couldn't just vanish. But for the first time in a long while, I felt something that had been missing for years. Hope. And maybe that's what family really is. Not perfection, not constant happiness, but the courage to reach back when the world tries to pull you apart. She visits me often now. Sometimes we bake cookies. Sometimes we just sit and talk. The first time she came after that, she brought me a framed photo. One from her wedding. It was of her and her husband standing under a tree, sunlight filtering through the leaves. But this one was different. She had photoshopped me in. Right beside her, holding her bouquet, smiling. When she handed it to me, she said, "I know you weren't there that day, but you're always there in my heart." I smiled, tears filling my eyes. "You didn't need to put me in the picture, sweetheart," I told her. "You've always kept me there." She hugged me again, and I realized sometimes forgiveness isn't a grand gesture. Sometimes it's a quiet moment in a kitchen between two people who love each other more than pride or pain. And for anyone listening, if you've ever felt forgotten or left out or unloved, just remember, life has a way of circling back. Love has a way of finding its way home. So if this story touched your heart even a little, please like, share, and subscribe. Maybe together we can remind the world. It's never too late to reach out, and it's never too late to be forgiven.